Geno! Man, Geno, I miss you, my friend, my Italian brother in arms. Leave it to you. You always have to come up with something new to make me talk about you. It's wild, man. It's entertaining, and I love the content you provide because every time you talk, you kind of create this reality that I don't know. You might be suffering from some dementia or what. I don't know what it is, but Geno, let me tell y'all something, man. Geno Auriemma, man, this guy talks out of the sides of his mouth that are just out of this world. And he made some comments recently about Paige Bueckers and winning a national championship and all that good stuff. And he went out of his way to say that winning a national championship doesn't really matter. This is coming from a guy that's won, I don't know, what, 10? Let me check the number exactly. Because I don't know what it is. It's a high number. This man has won how many championships? He has won 11 national championships. Understand this, since 1995, the man has won a national championship literally more than once every 3 years. This man won championships in 95, 2000, 02, 03, 04, 09, 10, 13, 14, 15, and 16. He's been to 23 Final Fours. 23 Final Fours in 30 years. So that's since 91. So in 35 years, he's been to 23 Final Fours. And this man is sitting here with the comments he made most recently. I will play for you right now. And he doesn't think winning national championships is important. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Rudy's Rant, powered by Come On Now, the podcast where we talk facts over feelings. Welcome back, everyone. I appreciate y'all. Those of you new, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. And of course, for those of you who are back again, I appreciate you and thank you so very much. Remember, merch is available. Proceeds to California fire victims. I thank everyone who's already purchased. I greatly appreciate you. This is what Geno said. No time and no need to waste time. No need to waste time.
This notion that you have to win a national championship or multiple national championships in order to be considered, a generational type player, an amazing type player. There are a lot of great players that have had amazing careers that have never won a national championship, that have never been to a Final Four. Okay. So, you can't use that as a gauge for where she would be. You can just, I think, use my thought process is how much did she dominate the college basketball world during the 4 years that she played here? And if you took her off our team, how many Final Fours would we have made? Yeah. How many national championship games would we have played in? What opportunities would we have if she wasn't on our team?
Yeah, and she's carried you.
And how many great All-Americans has she played with? I don't say this, but I think the number is 0.
Geno, holy Lord, you just said all that stuff. What possessed you to say that, Geno? Let me ask. The guy who's won 11 natties, guy who has known winning more than he's known losing, a guy who until 2016 pretty much won the national championship over 20 years. He won it 50+% of the time. That is what this man is sitting here telling you, that now it doesn't matter. And it doesn't make Paige Bueckers' career any less or better, any worse or better, to not have won a national championship. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to surprise you. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, you're right. It doesn't diminish her career. You want to know why I say that? Because Caitlin Clark didn't win a national championship, and it damn sure didn't diminish her career. The fact that she got to two of them was utterly amazing. But you cannot put Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark in the same conversation. You cannot put Iowa and UConn in the same conversation. Because at the end of that video, he says, well, how many national championships or Final Fours would they have gotten to without her? Well, I will help him out, because in the 2021-2022 season, they went to the national championship where they lost by 15 points to South Carolina. In that season, Paige Bueckers didn't play half the year. Okay. So she played late, and she did help bring them because her numbers weren't crazy good. Like, her numbers weren't crazy good. Let's not lie. We don't have to lie, Craig. Do we? We don't. So let's be honest, Geno. Yes, she helped you get to a natty in that one season where she averaged 14.5 points. And if you want to be more specific, in the tournament games, she scored 12, 9, 15, 27, 14, and 14. She averaged, let me do the basic mathematics of this one. 12 plus 9 plus 15 plus 27 divided by 6. She averaged 15.2 points per game. That is not some world beater performance. Did they need her to get there? Yes. I'm going to sit here and say, yes, of course they did. But she averaged 15 a game in the tournament. She had one legitimately strong game against NC State in the Elite Eight. She wasn't magnificent in this tournament, but they got there in large part because UConn is immensely talented. Let's not lie. Aaliyah Edwards on that team, Azzy Fudd, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, Kristen Williams, Nika Mule, Avina Westbrook. Let's not lie. No one really played that well in that game against Stanford. She was the leading scorer with 14 points, which tells you what Stanford was. Overhyped. But let's go back. As a freshman, she got to the Final Four. Yes, she did. And as a senior, after missing a full season, she got to the Final Four last year, and she lost to Caitlin Clark. And there's not a person on the planet that would sit here and tell Geno that you had less talent than Iowa. There's not a person on the planet that would believe no bullshit like that you had less talent than Iowa. This man at the end says that she's played with no All-Americans. Okay, God. If she's played with no All-Americans in college, guess what? That's your fault. That's your fault. That's your job. because every one of them players that you recruited were all Americans in high school. Every one of those players you recruited, man, are top 25 players at worst. I think the only one ranked in the top 25 in the last few years is KK Arnold. No, not her. She's ranked in the top 10. There's one player who's ranked like number 40. That would be the best recruit that Caitlin Clark would have ever played with. Number 40. In fact, the number one recruit that Caitlin Clark played with her junior and her senior years at Iowa was Hannah Stuelke, who was ranked 45th. 45th. Other than that, Jada Giamfi, 76. Sydney Alfalter, not ranked. Kate Martin, not ranked. Taylor McCabe, 89. Molly Davis is ranked 2,000 plus. She didn't even go to Iowa out of high school. That should tell you all you need to know. The best player in terms of high school recruiting rankings that Caitlin Clark played with was Hannah Stuelke at 45. And that would be the lowest ranked player that you have at UConn. That would be the low, like she wouldn't even be recruited by UConn. Hell, you didn't recruit Caitlin Clark. And you're going to sit here with a straight face and say that, I mean, first of all, that's a massive level of disrespect to the team, the players that you've had, that you would say some dumb shit like that. But you're really going to sit here with a straight face and say she's played with no All-Americans? Her entire team, they were all All-Americans. The fact that you couldn't continue that because you have completely sucked at coaching over the last decade or almost a decade is telling that you could not create more All-Americans in college from the All-Americans that you recruited out of high school. You recruited nothing but All-Americans, my guy, and you're going to sit here with a straight face and try to tell us, well, she hasn't really played with any All-Americans. Zero? Bro, get the fuck out of here. Just get the fuck out of here. I can't take stupidness like that. It just shows how delusional this man has become. It is crazy, people. I am telling you, it has gone the levels of ridiculous when it comes to Geno Auriemma and his I don't get it. I don't get it at all. This man with a straight face and to sit here and say that it doesn't matter anymore. Mind you, this man's entire career, maybe is based on winning, and maybe he should stop having the reactions that he has when his team loses then. So important. Winning is so unimportant. National championships are so unimportant. I mean, look, do I think they're the thing that determines how great you are? No, I don't. I genuinely don't. Because you need everything to go your way, and you also need to be playing with some dogs. You need talent around you. No matter how good you might be, if you don't have players who can play with you, you're not going to win championships typically. Typically, even if you look at Iowa's players, they got some good players. They're just not elite. They got good players. I'm not going to take that away from them. They had some good players. But UConn has elite players, elite, and they haven't won in almost a decade. And you're going to sit here because that's the argument you've been used on Caitlin Clark. Well, she's not the best ever. She's not the GOAT because she didn't win a championship. In fact, Geno Auriemma brought up that Breanna Stewart won 4 rings. Yeah, playing next to 11 McDonald's All-Americans and National Players of the Year every single year that she was at UConn. Come on. Stop it. There is not. Now, what I will say for the women's game, there is not a player in the women's game that you would call one of the best ever who didn't make it to a Final Four. There is not. Not that I can think of. Not that I can think of. I mean, if you go through the rosters of the NBA, the WNBA roster right now, I mean, I'm sure there might be some, but you wouldn't be calling them there might be some that are in the WNBA, but you would not be ever referring to those players as some of the best ever to play basketball. Like they wouldn't even be in a conversation of that. Like you look at the players like me, I just off the top of my head, Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu went to the Final Four. I mean, any player at UConn went to the Final Four. Most players at Stanford went to the Final Four at some point. Most of them did, at least. Like, you're not referring to anyone as like Candace Parker. You're not referring to anyone who didn't go to a Final Four and said they're one of the greatest of all time in women's ball. And I'm being very specific in women's basketball. The reason I'm being very specific is because women's basketball has always been very, very, very top heavy. You have a few great teams where all the best players play, and then the rest of the teams are just fodder to get beaten up in the tournament and not have a chance to really compete. It's only been over the last few years where there's other teams that have started to compete at a better level. But for the most part, you got 4 or 5 teams that are loaded with all the talent, and those are the ones that go to the Final Four. If USC does not go to a Final Four, the Final Four this year, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked. As long as they don't end up in a bracket with Notre Dame or UCLA, I think that or South Carolina, I would be shocked if they didn't get to the Final Four. And I mentioned them specifically because of Juju Watkins. But would you say that Juju Watkins wasn't, I mean, if she wasn't to get to a Final Four, would you say after she left as a junior, because she's going to leave as a junior, people, I don't care what she says publicly. I don't care about she's mentioned this record. She's not going to stick around for 4 years. There's too much money that will be available to her. And at the end of the day, I don't think she'll get the record regardless unless they start really trying to puff her up, because even with her puffing her up like crazy right now, she's still not on the pace. She's just not. The pace she's fallen on the pace. Today they won by 42 points, and she had 16. And she played 36 minutes. They're doing everything they can to puff her shit up, and they still can't. She took 15 shots. Kiki Iriafen played 12 minutes. 12 minutes. And still Juju Watkins only had 16 points. Juju Watkins right now is averaging 25-3. She's not on the pace to get to that number. But I'm just she's averaging 26.4 through 2 seasons. What did Caitlin Clark average through 2 seasons? Just to give you the information. Through 2 seasons, she averaged 26.8. So she's 27 as a sophomore, 26.6 as a freshman. So 26.8. So she's actually ahead of her. Now the question will be, how many games does Juju Watkins actually play? She played 34 as a freshman, which was 4 more than Caitlin. Caitlin played 32 as a sophomore, so then she played 38 and 39. Juju Watkins could end up playing some more games if she played 4 years, but we're gonna see. The point being, the whole point of this was, if Juju Watkins finishes second, or let's say she does pass Caitlin Clark, but she never makes it to never wins a national championship, does that diminish who she is? No. Hell no. Does that diminish? If she didn't make it a Final Four, would that diminish who she is? No. Because it takes a lot of luck to win a national. It takes a lot of luck in the tournament. Like, things have to go your way. Balls have to bounce your way. If you actually want to be real about certain things, I mean, South Carolina was undefeated and needed a bank shot from 3 from Camila Cardoso. I think it was it last year, to beat Tennessee in the SEC championship. I think it was last year. The only 3 that Camila Cardoso took all year. She hits a bank 3 to win it. I mean, you need miracles like that sometimes. Now, would that have stopped them from winning the national championship? No. But it just shows you that you can lose games in all kinds of ways. So I only brought her up because she is a sophomore and, she hasn't been to a Final Four yet. But most of the greatest players of all time in women's basketball have been to Final Fours. Have they won national championships? No, because UConn dominated them for over a decade, for 20 years. They dominated them for 20 years. But Geno Auriemma is making that statement because he knows there's a distinct possibility that Paige Bueckers is not going to win a national championship this year. He knows it. He knows that that's more than likely what's going to happen, is that they're not going to win, because he's so damn critical of his own damn team and spends so little time actually developing talent. And rather than working with the backups to get them some minutes so they can be prepared for the tournament run, he'd rather play his starters 35 minutes a game. I mean, that's on him. He doesn't want to use his younger players to get better. That's on him. But he knows that they're probably not going to win. So he says this ludicrous bullshit because he knows that Caitlin Clark didn't win. So that's what he's trying to do, is make that comparison. When the reality is, we know why Caitlin Clark didn't win. Her teammates weren't good enough. If she didn't go for 45 on 60% shooting, they weren't going to win. They were not going to win a natty. That's just a fact. I mean, if she had played the four quarters the way she played the first quarter against South Carolina last year, yes, they would have won that shit. But that pace was really unsustainable. You need other players to step up as well and put in some work. But this guy is off the wall, bro. He is off the wall. I know I'm kind of dragging this a little bit, but no All-Americans, Geno. You're acting like Paige Bueckers is playing with a bunch of ducks. A bunch of ducks that you recruited who are all Americans in high school. And now magically they're not very good in your commentary. What's new? What's new? But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about Geno's newest comments, because they are consistent with the bullshit he spits. Typical Geno. What can you say? He has to find a reason. He has to make up a reason to justify his failures. Because this failure, for the failure at UConn, it's not Paige Bueckers. It's his. It's Geno Auriemma's failure. His inability to develop players. His inability to get players better from year to year. He needs to have them already handmade for him so he can just throw them out there. That's why Paige played as a freshman and was the national player of the year and freshman of the year and all that shit. That's why it was. She was ready to go. She was ready to roll. He didn't do anything to make her better. He hadn't done anything to make her better in 5 years. Nothing. She's the same player she was 5 years ago. She's not any better than she was 5 years ago. Same player. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I appreciate y'all. This is Rudy's Rant. We talk facts for feelings. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow, hit that bell. Appreciate y'all. Come on now.